It's weird, you record at the same frequency as me, with the same number of bits. So our recordings are synchronized, but over an hour or so, the sync goes out by about 1/10 of a second. Now, I know that doesn't sound like anything, but with my brain, it's the kind of thing I go, why does that drift like that? That's weird. I wonder if it's a sort of a relativity thing or something. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
That is strange. And
why your recording should be different from mine in any way whatsoever. But,
Well, I have noticed that when I upload when I do my radio show, I do it exactly and I cut it, when I cut the last, when I do the upload for the podcast and everything, I cut it to be exactly an hour long. But sometimes it's 5 seconds shorter, sometimes it's 5 seconds longer when it gets to the other end. And I don't understand what's happening. And it only started happening with me in the last 9 months or so, because traditionally, if it was an hour long, it would be an hour long no matter where it ended up. So I don't know if something
maybe Nova Scotia's sinking into a black hole very, very slowly.
Well, it's funny you say that, because
causing all kinds of time dilation effects.
It didn't start happening until I was living here, and it didn't happen immediately after.
It's
I got
you
here.
then.
It could be.
It's you.
It could be.
You're not the first human black hole, are you?
I have some. It's possible. I have a close friend who's convinced I'm not human. He keeps telling me I'm not human. I'm an alien. I don't know where it's coming from, but
Well, maybe there's something to that then.
There might be. I don't know.
Would you know if you were an alien? Would you know though? This is the question.
Well,
and you certainly wouldn't admit it if you were, would you? If you were just wearing a human suit, there's no way you're ever going to tell us. Yeah, I'm just wearing a human suit.
Exactly. No, you couldn't tell anybody. There's no way.
No.
Maybe if you were really high or something, and you're like, hey man, I'm an alien. Of course you're an alien, dude.
Yeah, but it's even worse than that. You might not know. You might not know that you're an alien. That's my theory.
What's the thing?
That you'd be completely programmed to be human, but then once shit starts going down, you suddenly divest yourself of this human exterior, and you become this other thing that unfolds into the world.
Well, there you go, right? I look like my parents too, so I'm not convinced, but it's you said.
Right, well, God. Unless they're aliens.
That or the alien thing's more complex than you want to believe. It's who knows? Maybe the suit the alien's wearing is the suit that I was given when I was born, but I don't remember. Because I don't remember being born. Do you remember being born?
No.
Well, that's because
I definitely don't.
The alien took over sometime between then and now. You don't remember?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, who that was talking about the alien invasion? It was it was Joe Rogan in his stand-up bit where he was talking about ladies giving birth, and he was saying it's like a massive alien. If you looked at it all at once, it's just like a massive alien invasion that's going on all the time. All these things arriving, from another dimension, but they turn into people, so it's okay. Yeah, who knows?
Exactly. Who knows? And I do find it fascinating, and I'm convinced if there is an alien invasion, they're either going to look exactly like us, or they're going to be so different it's going to be hard for us to even fathom that something like that could exist.
Yeah, I like that science fiction film Arrival.
Okay, yeah.
Which has got they communicate by drawing sort of spirally pictures on the glass but they seem to be able to manipulate gravity and time. I like that one. I think that's what aliens would be like. They'd be completely incomprehensible, but they would have to try, if they were communicating, they would have to try and get down to our level somehow, as if we were communicating with ants. They'd have to come down to our level.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It would be very difficult for them to do that, to get any sense of what we're doing. Because if you looked from space at humans, we're quite like ants. From a big perspective, there's not much difference between us and an ant colony. If you looked at a city and you thought, what the hell is that incrustation on that otherwise perfect planet? It's infested with look at that. And every morning all these little lights go in, and every night all these little lights go out. What are they doing? They're travelling in boxes, metal boxes everywhere. What's going on? Sometimes there's only one of them in there. Sometimes there's 4 of them in there. Then you have these bigger metal boxes where there's like hundreds of people, and then they fly through the air in other metal boxes. You'd be trying to figure it out, and you wouldn't be able to figure it out just by looking. You'd have to get right down in amongst it. And I think that would be very difficult for any alien mind that was at any kind of scale, beyond ours. I think they would find it difficult to understand.
I think you're right. It would definitely be difficult. And especially when it comes like that, if it's a different dimension too, right? Because there's just as much about that as like there could be a 4th dimensional or 5th dimensional being. It'd be. I'm not a fan of these sort of dimensional theories, because that takes you to string theory, and I kind of go, oh my god, when I get to string theory, it's like, I don't know if you've ever read anything about that, but you want how many dimensions? Like 12 or something?
I was glad to see that Roger, something like that. They keep adding them, don't they? And then Roger Penrose, he's not a fan of it, so that's good enough for me. I'm a fan of Roger Penrose, so I'll stick with what he says.
Yeah, well, there's all those thoughts. I've just, none of these are my own.
No, exactly. Nothing original here. Yeah.
But yeah, no, who knows? Well, if the aliens are here, I hope they enjoy music. And that's their...
Oh, I'm sure they must. Well, maybe they can. Because music's a thing of the air, isn't it? So if you haven't got air, what does your music sound like? If you lived underwater, what would your music be like? Look what the whales do. The whales can talk to one another all across the blooming ocean.
Yeah, well, maybe music exists across all sorts of different types of atmospheres. We just haven't.
Yeah,
we haven't conceived of it yet.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Apparently there's one really lonely whale out there who's been calling for years, and he's the only one. Really? And he's out there just going, ooh, you know the way they do with that sort of mournful, ooh, fuck, sort of like that, Oh, help me! Oh, I'm so lonely. That's what it always sounds. That's what people listen to whale song to relax. No, it just freaks me out. It's so sad.
It is.
It's so sad. These poor creatures. But apparently there's one out there that's just the last of his species, or the last of his pod or something.
Just calling around, eh? That'd be terrible.
Just calling around. Yeah, we had a school of a school of pilot whales or something washed up somewhere. Really tragic. There was about 40 of them or something just washed up. There was some kind of sonar thing going on, and they think that upset them, and they went in the wrong direction, and oh my god, I hate to think of that. Can you imagine being killed because you just couldn't navigate because of this enormous sound right in your environment? That must be awful if you're a sound-based creature.
Yeah, that would be. That's why I have thought about that kind of stuff, and and I always kind of come to this like conclusion that I'm hoping that sound, just like sight and everything else, has like that olfactory effect where something, even if it's intrusive and annoying, after a little while just kind of becomes quieter and more part of the scenery. Because like there's...
Oh, right, you don't notice it after a while. Yeah.
Like the sound of my computer down, beside me. Like I hate that sound. That sound is maddening to me, especially if I hear it in like a quiet recording. If I'm trying to record acoustic guitar or bongos or something, and I can get it out with some some stuff, plugins and whatnot. You can get rid of it, but it can be. I'd just rather not be there. But I don't hear it otherwise. I don't hear it till I'm focusing on the recording, because I'm always in the room. But if something else starts making a noise that's not even as annoying or as loud as my computer, I'm so much more annoyed by that other new thing. Like it would take me days and days and days to get used to that new noise before I wasn't, I wouldn't be walking around the room trying to figure out what it is and trying to make it stop. So I'd hope, but yeah, the idea of having that bombardment of being such a sensitive audio creature and having that happen. Because I wonder about that now. Like when you stand outside, like we don't hear the sound of Earth, but it's got to be making noises. Like Earth can't be silent. Like all the other planets are making noise, right? So why don't we hear it? Is it because, same reason we don't smell oxygen? I think because it's always there.
Yeah, or taste water or stuff like that. It's just there. It's just part of the background.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that with noises. I can focus sometimes, but yeah, there are some things that annoy me when if there's voices. Like if I hear voices outside my room, it always drags me away. I can't ignore voices, but other sounds I can quite ignore. But isn't it strange when you make a recording and you think it's all right and you listen back, and quite often it's completely different from what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
You know, that's that sort of thing. Like it'll have a bit of noise on it that you hadn't reckoned with, or there'll be a frequency spike or something, and you've got no idea where it came from. You just sort of like, well, I'll try some different things. I'll sit closer. I'll mic it up differently. Yeah, that always confuses me. But my room isn't perfect. I don't suppose yours is either, because no sort of rooms outside professional places are perfect. But I wonder how much of that is to do with the room and how much of it is just to do with like luck and stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, that could be because I don't consider myself a good enough ear to hear the problem anyway yet. Like those kind of problems, and if I'm hearing those problems, I'm not sure what those problems are. You know, so you know, as far as I go,
right.
when I EQ something, if I'm trying to like clean it up, if there's a sound that I don't like, you know, I assume it's going to be noisy. So I I open up an equalizer and I look for the spikes, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like and I look at a spike somewhere and I go, that sounds about. I look at that and go, that looks about where it sounds like it should be, you know, and I'll pull it down.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh yeah, that was the sound or not, or I'll keep experimenting, and then I find it and then I just leave it alone. And that's, you know, and that's like that's how I fix stuff. But I don't think about the other stuff that, you know, just because I only base it on how it sounds to my ear, not necessarily how it sounds in the mix. It's more about how, is it shrill? Does it make my headphones like clip somewhere or vibrate somewhere where they shouldn't?
Yeah.
You know? That's just
Yeah.
I gotta get better at hearing.
No, I'm the same. I just look inside. I look inside the wave if I hear something I don't like, or if it's not working in the mix, I can go into the waveform and sort of mess about with it. But I think the more you do that, the more you do that, the more you get away from the thing that you had in mind to begin with. I find, you know, if you got an idea on an acoustic guitar, so you have to record the acoustic guitar, then you know you're placing mics and all that kind of stuff, and you know it sounds great when you play it, but then the mic fucks it up, or something goes wrong with it, or there's a resonance or something, you know, and the temptation is to mess about with that, and it's probably better just to wait a minute, just do it again, just record it again. You know, try a different mic or a different position or something like that, rather than try and EQ the problem. If you catch it early enough, of course. If it's way down in the mix, then you know sometimes you can't get it. But yeah, sometimes I've had to redo stuff. But sometimes when you listen back as well, you get a better idea of what you were trying to do when you listen to the playback, and you go, "Ooh, if I did this, it would be probably better."
Yeah,
but it is a mystery. It's a mystery why things sound one way 1 minute and another way the next minute. It must be the proximity of other sounds. It must be that. It must be that the sounds are. It's not that the sounds are acting off one another, but they're in your brain. They're making pictures that are not quite always joined up until you hear them in a mix, and then you go, "Oh, wait a minute! That bass guitar's tramping all over the bottom strings of that guitar." So, what do? Do you replay the guitar without the bottom strings? I've done that before.
All right.
Or do you just EQ the bass out of the way, or the guitar out of the way, or do you just let them join up the way they are? All these decisions.
Yeah, I do find that
all these bloody decisions.
I do find that stuff hard. I do feel that the more you edit it, the less it sounds like how you wanted it to, and I think you have to sometimes trust listeners not going to hear it that way. You know, like they're not going to hear the failings that you hear in the EQ. They're going to enjoy because it's got a good mix and a good balance, and they can hear the clarity, and they're not going to, you know, miss the thunder in the bottom of the guitar when they're in the room. You can feel the amp in your chest, you know, and you're hoping that would translate to the recording.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's hard though. I have a terrible time doing it, especially with guitar, because that's the thing is like when I write a song on guitar, the guitar fills my imagination with all this stuff. You know, but it takes up so much sonic room, you know, then when I record it and I try and add anything else to it, you're constantly taking away from this original thing that just fired you up inside. So it is hard.
Do you have like a standard sort of technique for recording guitar or for miking up things, or do you have to reinvent it each time?
Well, if I'm using an amp, I pretty much reinvent it every time because I'm never happy with the end result when I mic up an amplifier. So I've never had something that I thought, yeah, I'll do that again. So I try and get my best. I get my best take I can at the moment with what I know and what I have, and then I work with it and go, fuck, I wish half the time I end up re-recording it with IRs anyway, because I just, so that's I haven't mic'd a guitar amp since I moved to Nova Scotia, I don't think.
All right.
So it's been over a year since I put a mic on an amp. And it might even be longer than that because I'm trying to think. I know I mic'd at least one guitar amp when I lived in Springfield. And that was a couple of years. So, yeah, it's been a while. It could go back as far as like 2019, 2018 since I put a microphone in front of a guitar amplifier.
Yeah.
So it's gone. I have a cable hanging out of my user interface all the time. It's sitting like right here. I can just plug it in. The guitars aren't within reach right now. I have to take a couple steps to grab a guitar, but I mean, that's not terribly out of reach. And it's at any moment I can just be running. I have at least 10 different guitar VSTs written on my desktop. I can play without a DAW if I just want to finger around.
Yeah.
And I do have 2 amps in the room. I have a half stack, like a 412 over here, line 6. Uh-huh. It's a line 6 speaker cabinet and line 6 head. And then I have a speaker cabinet I made with some 10-inch Celestians. I forget the model number. They're not like vintage 30s or anything, but they're some sort of cheaper Celestian speaker. Yeah. 2 10-inch ones, and I have that running with a little Joyo tube amplifier. These little Chinese knockoff tube amps.
Yeah,
and it sounds fantastic when I play it in the room, but when I mic it up, it sounds too thin and papery to me. Like I don't.
Ah.
And I've tried all different types of different mics. I almost always incorporate a 57 in there somewhere because I have one Shure SM57 that's like my go-to, snare guitar mic, just because everybody tells you that's what you should use.
Yeah.
So I'm always putting it in there. But then I'm always including, like I've used the SM7B. I have a bunch of these Chinese condenser mics, like these MXLs, I think they're called, MXL microphones. And they sound great. I use them on all sorts of stuff, but I find I never get that amp to sound or feel or be anything like how I want it to be. But then I open up line 6 Helix, a couple clicks with my mouse, and I'm already getting tones that I love. And the nice thing about that is the tones I'm hearing are coming through my studio monitors. Like I'm hearing it through the same speakers I'm mixing it, right? So I'm recording it. So I'm almost mixing the sound as I'm recording it, so
Sure, yeah.
Because I'm playing along with the recording and I'm adjusting it so that when I lay it down, even though I have a dry take, it's not a wet take. Like still when I'm listening back, I'm still listening to the VST on top of a dry take.
Uh-huh.
It sounds exactly how I want it to because I made, there's no trying to make my guitar amp sound right coming through my speaker monitors. Like my speaker monitors are my guitar amp now. So that simplifies so much, I think, to me, and I've accepted that because my music's not meant to be played live. I would totally take the chance. Like if someone, if I got signed to a big label and they're like, yeah, we want to put the money into putting Death by Design on the road and we're going to get you like 5, 6, 7 musicians to help make this happen, and they're going to just listen to your music and learn to play it. That's their job, is to learn how to play this crap you just throw out there all the time. And I would definitely take that opportunity, but that's not the case, right? So I thought, like, why would I try and capture this live sound all the time, with this like mystique of being this real band?
Yeah.
Let's. So now I think of it as like now my speakers, my studio monitors are as much of an instrument as my guitar is, or bongos or anything else.
Yeah,
because
for me, it's the headphones. So I listen to everything. So if I'm recording guitar, it comes through my headphones. My mix comes through my headphones. YouTube comes through my headphones. Computer games come through my headphones. I live in these bloody headphones. I practically never take them off. But that's where, I agree with you. Really, I think if you've got, so from what you're saying, it sounds like you've got a kind of go-to kind of thing that you use. It's not miking up a cabinet, but you've got a suite of things that you can plug into, and I'm going to get that sound by doing this, and then you get the sound sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
But then what you were saying earlier on is that when you're not getting the sound, and I have this problem as well, when I'm not getting the sound, I don't necessarily know how to get there, because that sound I'm going for is the sound of a Marshall stack recorded with a really good microphone in a really good room. That's what I'm looking for, and I don't have that. So I'm trying to find the thing, and if I get lucky with something, I usually, if it's a plugin or an amp sim, I'll save that as a favourite, But then I've often found when I go back to it, I go, is that really the same? Was that the way it was? Was it really like that? Because in my memory it's different,
Yeah, that does happen.
But I think the whole thing is quite dynamic, depending what you're doing, depending where it goes. The whole thing changes from project to project, really, or from moment to moment as well sometimes.
Well, that is very much the case too, and I've found that there's many songs I've written that I've gone back and looked at and been like, wow, where'd that come from? Because it was a step in a weird direction for me, and I feel like I want to continue in that direction, because it called to me, and then I go back to it with this intention on, let's write another song that sounds like this. I'll use some of the same presets on my synth and use the same guitar sounds and maybe some of the same modes, and no matter what I do, typically like 9 times out of 10, I end up making this shit turd of a song that shouldn't exist. And I realized that like that amazing thing that happened to that song that I thought was like a rebirth in me of some sort, or a new trick in me, really wasn't. It was a flash moment that I caught, in that moment. And that's why it's kind of special.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And that creates a stress on me sometimes, because when I'm doing something I consider new and awesome, I feel like I have to push it as hard as I can, because I'm not going to be able to go back to it tomorrow or next week or whatever to do it again, and it's.
Do you ever work? We talked before about the sort of the many minds idea, which I know you don't use, but I do. And the way I do it is I treat it like a session. So if I have a great guitar sound that I really, really love, I do one track, and then I get that guitarist, which is just me, but it's a different person, but it's me. And I just get that person, right, okay, next track. And I just close down the project, open up a new one, and we do the next track with that guitar sound and maybe some tweaks. And then, so we explore together, just me, but these two people, explore together that space for as long as we can, until we kind of shrug our shoulders and go, well, I don't think there's much more in that, And then we'll pick another sound, and if we haven't got a whole album by the time that first idea runs out, we do another half a dozen tracks or whatever it is, but just as quickly as we can. Sometimes a dozen tracks in a day, just ideas, getting them down as quick as possible. And that gets round that problem of, you have an idea and it never repeats. So an album can sound like a lot more varied than it would do otherwise, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not, because you can't recapture the spirit of what you were doing. So the way I get around that is I just stretch that moment out, and I just keep that persona captured until all of that is out and done and is in the can, sort of thing. And then I do the same thing with the bass player or the drummer or whatever, and we just keep going and just put it down in layers with each sort of persona, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, because I think a lot of times I'm essentially doing the same thing. It just depends on it just depends on what's coming out of me, because I've done that where I do write like an entire album in a week or a day, or we're just all like that album Everything. I have the volume 1, 2, 3. I wrote all the lyrics to that entire album like in a 2 or 3 hour sitting. It's like a 3 hour.
Sorry, which album was that?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah,
right.
There's like 3 volumes and they're all over an hour long.
Yeah.
And I wrote all the lyrics to all 3 of those albums in like a 2 hour sitting, just on the couch one day. And I always keep a notebook like on the back of the couch that I could reach to when I felt inspired to write.
Yeah.
And it all came out. And then I might not write another song for 8 months, like lyrically. And I'll write all these instrumentals, and then all of a sudden I'll get this lyric thing again too. But what happens when I'm writing an album, when it's coming out of me quickly, is I'll record bass for almost every song at once, and I'll record the guitar for almost every song at once.
Right.
And it's like that. It's like because I get this bass mode where I'm feeling this groove, I'm feeling this I'm hitting the notes with a precision and the sort of like there's something happening that I can't normally tame or I can't normally pull out of myself, so it's like I'm in this maximum kind of like place and I just want to capture it because I know like you were saying that if I come back tomorrow, it's not likely I'm going to have that exact same experience, have the same sound I'm hearing, even though I've saved all the presets and everything's, the guitar is set the same way. The strings I'm not going to change the strings or anything. It's going to be the same way tomorrow as it is today.
Yeah.
And it won't be, it just won't be. So I do capture that way. And it doesn't happen often. Like it might happen once a year. It might happen once every 2 years where I have something like that happen to me. Otherwise, I find my songs and my approach are much more compartmentalized because I just don't have as much time, I guess, or I don't focus on one thing enough. Because I'm always bouncing around between working in my studio to, taking the dog for a walk to changing a diaper or or making a video, whatever it is, or playing a video game. Like I'm always kind of bouncing. So when I feel like that spark of inspiration, like most of the songs I make now, I usually record and write in like an hour to 2 hour period. And then I'll come back and mix it after, I'll mix it later before I go to bed. And that's pretty much done. Like that's it. That's all the song's giving. And I'm finding that these little pocket approaches are yielding these really neat results to me because I don't feel as compelled to layer too much in the song because I feel like I've always been guilty of overabundance in my songs.
Yeah.
And in every way, length, volume, content, just always too much going on because that's just in my head. I keep hearing these things happening. So I'm like, well, if it's in my head, it's got to go there. But now I'm like, I'm on a schedule. So I'll just have to, hopefully that idea comes back to me for a different song,
So
or it doesn't.
Real life is sort of setting up boundaries for you. So you just adapt and you work within these new boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We've all had that. I'm pretty sure even fully professional musicians who have all the time in the world and are just making music and getting paid handsomely for it. I'm sure they have exactly the same things.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about so what happens is that your inspiration. When you get moments of inspiration, those moments of inspiration are actually curtailed by the boundaries that real life sets you as well, or are they? Are you sitting there in a meeting at work, and suddenly you go, "Oh shit, that's a good lyric. I must write that down."
It does sometimes.
Do you start?
It can happen. Not lyrics as much, but I'll get more like rhythms and melodies, kind of happening, And I feel the need to.
Right.
When I was on the road. When I was on the road, I would pick up my phone and hum into it or sing something into it, But now that this is my office, I can literally just open Cubase and be like, tap out the tempo in my head, lay out a metronome and put the idea down, hit save and come back to it later. And I have dozens and dozens of those where it's like just a minute long idea on a guitar or.
Oh, you do?
And it's funny.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So you must have. Between those kind of things and all the tracks you've done, because you were telling me that you've made all these little what would you call them? Little opening sort of synthy things for your radio show.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you've got lots and lots of those. So you must have lots and lots of stuff just sort of on a hard drive somewhere.
Yeah.
Waiting for you to go back to it.
Yeah, dude.
Is that the way it is?
It is. Yeah. I still have like 3 or 4 albums or maybe more than that, 5 or 6 albums I've recorded that need mixing and attention or maybe lyrics.
Right.
Yeah. And then like little short ideas, because
right.
I'm always finding this. And because every time something neat is happening, because I'm capable of recording things, I'm completely obsessed with recording almost everything I do now. Like I almost never just practice guitar without a microphone in front of it, or just, so it's weird. Like my practice now is writing songs is how I practice my instruments and recording them.
Well, that's good, isn't it? That's how you get good at doing that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
if you can just
so it's a strange thing, but it's a product of this exact moment of time, I think, for people like ourselves, because even guys like Frank Zappa probably couldn't say stuff like that at one point. He had a recording studio in his house, but I'm sure there was a lot of things happening that weren't being recorded. Because of the price of tape and the price of,
Probably, yeah. Although I think Frank recorded almost any musical event that was happening.
Yeah.
I think Frank was recording it. I think he probably was one of the guys. He's a bad example, I think, because he was recording absolutely everything. There's, do you know Real World Studios in Bath in England? That's Peter Gabriel's studio.
Yeah.
He's got an ethos. There's the main studio, and he can record there if he wants, but he doesn't usually if he's just working away. He's got a separate place just off the main studio that's his place, where he's got a couple of engineers work between the main studio and this little place that and when he walks in the door, they start recording. They just record everything with microphones, with every instrument's got its own channel, and they just record everything all the time. Because he wants to be able to capture everything that went on in the room, you know? And to a certain extent, Holger Shukai used to do that as well from Cannes. When he had his own studio eventually, he would do that. And David Sylvian tells a story of going round to his studio, and there was a piano up in the corner, and Sylvian just went over and started sort of plonking about, just making, just wasting time whilst Holger got things ready, or so he thought. Until Holger said to him, "Right, okay, we'll do the next layer now." Yeah, that's all recorded. So there's something to that, and that actual piano performance that Sylvian did is on one of the albums they did together. So you can go and listen to it and see,
Yeah, well,
and I think that's wonderful. It must be great to have that kind of setup. I don't really have it here, but it must be great to have that. Just press A button and everything starts recording, and you don't have to worry about hard disk space. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's all taken care of.
Well, I do have to worry about hard disk space, but it's only like a problem like once a year or so. Where it's like, yeah, I got to get it.
Yeah, you were saying that you've got terabyte. You've got how many terabytes did you have? 10 terabytes or something?
Yeah, I have a 10 terabyte drive, and I got about I have about 8 terabytes used on it right now.
Right.
So it's but I have room for another one, so I'm gonna get one more in there, and then after that I'll have to go to like a docking station or something on there. But
oh wow,
that's
so I'm working off. I don't keep any of my old stuff. I don't archive anything.
No way.
I sort of did for a long, long time. I kept all of my projects, and I never used them. I think I only went back to one once, and it was so difficult because all the technology had changed. By the time I went back to it, all my MIDI stuff had changed, and to get it back into any shape for working with took more time than actually making the track did in the first place. So that was a kind of experience that put me off, and I thought, you know what, I'll just adopt the attitude that once it's done, it's done. That's why when the Stranger in My Town guys asked me for the vocal track to their song, I was like, I don't have it, guys. I'll have to do it again.
Oh man!
So I did it. I had to do it again, but that was okay because I got to have all the fun of singing the song again. But I don't archive anything because that idea of this growing weight of just stuff that you've done. I keep all my masters, of course. I keep all the mixed masters, and I think I might. Yes, I've still got the last project I did still on the hard disk. But I was looking at it the other day. I was thinking, 32 gigabytes. That project could probably go now. That's 32 gigabytes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that either. Like there's, I don't know what it is. It's like this fantasy that I'm, one day I'll be revered as a great musician, and I'll want to be able to unearth all this stuff, and just have this. So when you're
an old man, you can spend your dotage leafing through all of this stuff and remixing it and packaging it, in whatever the latest sort of format is that all the kids are into.
Yeah, or even after that, like if it might not even be my problem, like it just be neat to have that laying around. It's just
your kids will be like, "Who's looking after Dad's hard drives?" Well, I'll take them. I'll take them for the next 6 months.
Well, it was even like I remember like 15 years ago doing this kind of stuff. My friend thinking it's crazy. Like I used to record our mushroom trips, so we like have all the conversations we had, on the drive, and I used to refer to it as Grandpa's waves, because like my grandkids will get it in my will or something, that it would be this.
Do you still have those
box of hard drives?
You still have them?
Well, that's a sad one because I do have a 5 terabyte drive that had all that stuff on it that I hadn't backed up because I I only typically back up the most serious stuff. Like, so I try and back up photographs, and I back up the master, like the original recordings of all my stuff I release, like all my Death by Design stuff and all that kind of stuff. But all these noodles and stuff, I don't bother to back it up because it's too much to keep track of one version of it, let alone to have to double it all up.
Yeah.
You know, so that I had this 5 terabyte drive with a bunch of stuff on it that had like original recordings of my high school band and everything too. So I still have the CD recordings, but I don't have the original stems anymore of my high school and college band.
Wow.
Because they're on the same drive as the Mushroom Conversations. And it just crashed on me.
Oh.
You know, so I have the drive. So I gotta pay someone probably a couple $1,000s to recover it. So that's, you know, but with that kind of money, I could buy like 100 more terabytes of fresh storage and just keep recording music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, we better get on, eh? We better get on. That'll be good. That'll be good for.
We should.
That'll be good for a blether. We'll stick that one out as a blether.
Yeah, that'd be good.